Welcome to the December episode of Milling About, a one-of-a-kind show that brings the best of Minneapolis right into your home. I'm your host, Brianna Rose, and here's what we have in store for you today. We'll find out what's fresh at the Mill City Winter Farmers Market with Executive Director Martha Archer. We'll talk to the co-owner of the Northeast Tea House, Simon Parrish. The project coordinator for Women of the Mississippi will join us. And Officer Larson and Canine Rex will share the story of how they came to win a national award. And finally, we'll talk Holidazzle history with Michael Rainville Jr. Enjoy today's show. I'm here today with Martha Archer, the Executive Director of the Mill City Farmers Market. Great to have you back, Martha.
Thanks for having me.
So the winter market is now in full swing, and I'm wondering how the new outdoor setup is going for you.
We've had to pivot again and again, and we keep revising our plan, but it's going very well. We opened last weekend. We have another market this weekend. And so we're going to be in the train shed of the Mill City Museum, as well as in the lobby and rail corridor of inside the Mill City Museum. We've hung cafe lights throughout the train shed to give it a real festive feel. We've still got our booths well spaced apart. We're working through all of the spacing throughout the museum as well. We've increased the ventilation in the museum, so it's one of the safest ways you can grocery shop this time of year.
Speaking of grocery shopping, what are the products that our viewers could buy this winter at the Winter Farmers Market?
Well, you'll find your same favorite vendors that you find in the summer. You'll find all the meat and cheese and bread and pastry products, as well as tables are plentiful right now with root and storage crops. So potatoes and Brussels sprouts and beets and carrots are all the good storage crops, and there's plenty of them, as well as a lot of fresh greens that people might be surprised that are still coming up. A number of our farmers have hoop houses, so the greens stay fresh throughout the winter inside the hoop houses.
Great. I love Brussels sprouts. Not everybody's favorite, but I think they're fantastic. So I
Roasted with a
heard
little
that
maple syrup is fabulous. Oh, sorry.
Exactly. No, not at all. I agree. So I heard that you have a new video out that explains your grant program. Could you tell us about that?
Sure. Our Next Stage grant program really helps take farmers and makers to the next stage of their business. And so this video, it's the first time we've been able to do something like that. It really highlights a few of our makers and our farmers who took advantage of this grant program to take their business to the next stage. And it highlights how it's been able to give them some real financial stability, yet allow them to innovate on their farm and have projects complete that they might not have otherwise been able to do, to either farm more efficiently, increase their production, increase the length of season extension crops and things, storage crops, ways to store them, ways to farm more regeneratively. So it's just a glimpse into a few of the projects, but it really gives you a feel for what this grant is able to do.
So where can our viewers go and view that video?
It's right on our website if you go under Impact and Farmer Grants. And it's running right now on the front of our website as well.
Great. Thank you so much for being with us again this month, Martha.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
I'm with Simon Parrish, the co-owner of the Northeast Tea House. Hi, Simon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So I want to start out by asking, I don't know of many tea houses in the area, and I was wondering what inspired you to start the Northeast Tea House?
Yeah, I would say largely my own experience with tea. Kind of a few years ago, I had just recovered from major depression, and I was in a very, I guess, kind of like blank slate where I didn't really know what I wanted to do or what direction to put my life in. And at that time, I kind of started just out of curiosity diving deeper into tea, and really engaging with traditional tea culture and these traditional ways of brewing it. Um, and when I discovered that, it was kind of like it was like a revelation. Not only how amazing tea could taste, but how relaxing it was, and how much it enabled me to just like really appreciate the moment. Um, and since then, it's become an incredibly important tool for me to connect with that way of being again and again. So principally, the main motivator of Northeast Tea House is to share that, to share the remarkable ability of tea to to help people relax and help people connect.
Well, I have to say, I was in Northeast Tea House a few weekends ago with my siblings, and that was something that we all remarked about as we were leaving is how relaxing of an experience that had been for all of us.
Yeah,
So I see where you're coming from when you say that. I saw something on your website about, do you call it gongfu brewing? Is that the way you would pronounce that?
yeah, gongfu. Yeah, yeah.
Can you
So
tell us a bit about that experience or that technique of brewing?
sure. Yeah, so that's really kind of the long form traditional way of brewing that I think is the most relaxing. And it's basically where you use a much higher leaf to water ratio and kind of like a bowl that big, a lidded bowl. Um, and because it's a much higher leaf to water ratio, you do a lot shorter brew times. So you do like 10 seconds, you strain it, then you sip it, and then you rebrew the same leaves, adding, say, 5 seconds each time. And so you can do that again and again, with the same tea, and kind of see how over the session, batch to batch, the flavors change, the tea changes, and it's like a tea journey and a tea experience in a way. And that's when it really kind of unfolds as a super relaxing process, I would say.
Well, speaking of experience, I also saw something called the Gongfu experience on your website, and I was wondering
Yeah.
what that is. It looked like it was something you could do as a group.
Yeah. That's basically a Zoom mediated version of Gong Fu brewing. Basically, in this period when it's hard for people to gather and connect over this amazing tea experience in person, we want to be able to at least offer that at home. And so this is where we would send you, or you could come pick it up, everything you need to do Gong Fu brewing. And then we would all connect on Zoom, and I would teach you how to do it. And hopefully, after that point, everyone can then explore the wide world of Gong Fu brewing on their own or together at home.
Very nice. Um, so beyond the Gongfu experience, you're also known for matcha tea, and I was just wondering what
Mhm.
makes your matcha different than other matchas out there.
We have only the second matcha mill in the country. Um, and so most matcha you buy will already be shipped overseas in a powder form. Um, and as a powder, matcha or tea in general will degrade a lot faster. So instead, we buy it as tencha, which is the raw leaf that becomes matcha, and it stores much better that way, right up till the point of milling. Um, and so it's basically the freshest matcha you can find anywhere. And if you do just a basic side-by-side test, it really is a remarkable difference in taste and in texture, aroma. It's just kind of a whole new matcha experience.
I'll definitely have to come to try out the matcha. Um, are you
Yeah.
offering any holiday specials?
Yeah, well, we're really trying to encourage people to get into tea brewing at home because like I think I mentioned, that's when the whole world of tea really opens wide. And so we're offering a deal where it's every $50 of teaware up to 200 total, you get a free ounce of tea. And so up to 4 ounces of tea to sample with your whole new setup. Um, or if you want to go to the matcha direction, we can set you up with a kind of a starter kit for whisking up matcha at home. And in that case, you would get a free tin of matcha.
Those sound like great specials and great gifts to give your loved ones. Thank you for
Mhm.
being with us today, Simon.
Thanks for having me.
I'm here with Kristy Ornelas, the project coordinator for the Women of the Mississippi River. Hi, Kristy. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So, I'd like to start out by having you tell our viewers what exactly is the Women of the Mississippi River project.
Yeah, so the Women of the Mississippi Project is um, a series of stories that basically commemorates the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. And basically, it's just a compilation of a lot of essays written about both historical women and contemporary women who have impacted the Mississippi River here in the Twin Cities at some point in their lives. So that's basically the project in a nutshell.
And how did you come up with this project? Was it you on your own? Is there a group that you work with?
Yeah, so the Women of the Mississippi Project came to be. Um, from basically the National Park Service made a call at the beginning of the year to commemorate the 100th anniversary um, of the 19th Amendment. And I work for Mississippi Park Connection. I'm doing a year of Americorps VISTA with them, and they kind of took that call, and my direct supervisor came up with the idea to talk about all these women who have made an impact. And so once I started my service year, she kind of handed it over to me and let me take creative control of it and get more people on board. And so, yeah, that's basically how it came to be.
Do you have a favorite story that you've come across as you've been doing this?
I do. There's several stories, there's so many. Um, I think one of my favorite ones is Ramona Quito Statley. She is one of the most amazing women I have ever met. I had the chance to interview her, and she was just incredible. Her story, she is a Susanti Nation woman, and she basically, her story begins way back when her great great grandmother actually lived here near the Mississippi River. And Ramona kind of like started discovering her lineage and all the stories of her family before they were forced to move from Minnesota. And so her story is a lot of like her discovering her own identity, her own family, and what that means for her and her connection to the Mississippi River. So it was very inspirational, and it was just very eye-opening, and she taught me a lot. And she also taught me that there's a lot we don't know about the land we call home. And yeah, she was just amazing too, and I'm very lucky to be able to talk to her.
It sounds like a great experience. So, what impact do you believe your project has had, and what are your hopes for it in the future?
Yeah, so um, I remember we posted about it on Instagram, and one of the comments on one of the posts was from a teacher, and he was like, I am so excited to share this with my students. And that's kind of, it just like kind of summarizes what I hope happens with this project. I hope people do see it as somewhere where they can start their research either into like the Mississippi River or people who have impacted it. Um, I just hope that the rangers at the National Park Service use it when they are doing their interpretive talks, or if people just want to look at it. I know so many people have already like told me I didn't know about Fuji Ya, which is a restaurant started by Leko Weston, who is another woman of the Mississippi um, woman, and it's just like so incredible to hear how much they're already learning based on this like project that I know can be improved so much more and still needs to grow. But yeah, that's basically how it has impacted the people that have seen it and what I hope it continues to do.
Thank you so much for sharing this project with us and for taking some time out of your day to be here with us, Kristy.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I'm here with Officer Larson and Canine Rex. They're the recipients of the United States Canine Association's Case of the Year Award for 2019. Hi, Reggie. Hi, Canine Rex. Nice to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
So, I want to start by saying Rex is a very handsome dog, and also, I'm guessing, a very good boy. What breed is he?
Rex is what you call a Belgian Malinois. Um, it's a close cousin to a German Shepherd. You can tell they're just a little different. They tend to be 20 to 30 pounds lighter than a German Shepherd, and um, they can kind of be identified by their black snout and their black and red coat is a pretty standard coloring for an Malinois.
So, how much training goes into preparing a dog to be a part of the canine unit?
Initially, they go to a 14-week school that is, 8 to 10 hours a day, and then it's constant training after that. When he was younger, we trained, 30 to 40 hours a month. As he's become more of a veteran, that number's gone down, but it's constant training. The training's never done. People always ask how much training, and I train with him every day, at least an hour in the morning, and then usually an hour at night during shift.
So, that's on top of a shift, so you guys must spend a lot of time together.
Yeah, that's something we talk about in the canine world a lot, is that we end up spending more time with our canine partners than we do with our families. Right now, I spent about 2 hours with them this morning when I got up, or this afternoon, and then right now we're working 5 12-hour days in a row. That's our rotation. So I definitely end up seeing him more than my wife or my children.
So, could you tell us about the events that led up to you winning a national award? That's a pretty big deal.
Um, yeah, it was last April, I believe, and Coon Rapids is the city that borders Blaine, and two of their officers were on a traffic stop and called out shots fired, which you never want to hear when you're working in my industry, and they followed that up with that they were being shot at. I happened to be close to the area, so I went over there and made contact with the two officers that were involved in the shooting, and they had advised me that the suspect had fled into a neighborhood adjacent to where the traffic stop was. A very short time after I initially got there, a contact team was made with myself and Canine Rex, and then I had 4 cover officers with me. And then off we went into the neighborhood to try and find this individual. And Rex was able to track that suspect into a backyard. And it was apparent to me through the time that I've spent doing this job that we were heading into an ambush situation. What that means is that is when you have a suspect that's waiting for you to appear, that knows that you're looking for him so that he can hurt you. And I sent Rex into the backyard of that residence by himself without us, and we waited to hear for Rex to find the suspect. After some time and no sign that Rex had found him, we actually entered the backyard and didn't find the suspect or Rex. And then we worked our way along the back of the house to where a side yard was, and that's where we located. That's where we had found that Rex had actually apprehended the suspect and initially had disarmed him, which a lot of handlers will tell you that these dogs save lives. This is a perfect example of where this actually happened in real life, as I know that through what I've been through being a police officer, if I would have went around that corner of that house without Rex, that we would have taken on gunfire from the suspect. He was in a position waiting for us. So he definitely saved my life and probably the four officers that were with me that night, as well as countless officers that were standing on perimeter that night as we searched for the suspect. So that's why he's so deserving of this award. Yeah, he's a hero. I don't know if he knows it, but he got an ice cream cone that night. So.
And I'm sure that was great for him, as all he was really looking for. That must have been very, I would have had a lot of anxiety between that point of letting him into the yard and then not hearing anything and then, finding him. And it's great that the story turned out the way that it did. You guys are definitely deserving of the award. Thank you so much for being on and sharing this story with us.
You're very welcome. It was my pleasure.
I'm here with our history columnist, Michael Rainville Jr., for another installment of Meandering Through Time. Hi, Michael.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. So last month, you took us meandering back through time to Thanksgiving Day in 1982 when a fire started in a partially demolished Donaldson's building on Nicollet Avenue, which the firefighters managed to save downtown from total destruction. What do you have for us this month?
Well, since we're in the midst of the holiday season, today I'd like to share a couple stories of the Minneapolis holiday traditions that have happened throughout the year. And I'd like to start with the Holly Dazzle. So, in the summer of 1992, a group of businesses in downtown Minneapolis were worried that the small national recession the year earlier, combined with the opening of the new Mall of America coming up in October of that year, would be disastrous for downtown Minneapolis during the holiday shopping season. So, a plan needed to be made to keep the shoppers in downtown. Brookfield Development and Dayton's each put down $200,000 to get things started, and when the city of Minneapolis saw this ambition, they contributed $100 million, not $100 million, $1 million. $100 million would have been great, but so as different ideas were being tossed around, they finally settled on hosting a parade. Inspired by the daily extravagant parades at Walt Disney World, the new Holly Dazzle Parade would run 4 nights a week from the Friday after Thanksgiving all the way to Christmas along Nicollet Mall there, right in the heart of downtown, which oddly enough was made to counter the opening of Southdale Mall. So the first year saw only 8 floats, but it was an instant success. So there's a lot of people went down that first year, and they really saw the opportunity that they could grow. So shops were full, the sidewalks were packed, and everyone was happy. The 8 floats quickly grew to 12, And at its peak, the parade featured over 350,000 lights and 300 volunteers, all in costumes, to bring the holiday spirit to everyone who went down to downtown Minneapolis. 2012 was the last year of the parade, but the Holiday Dazzle transformed into a holiday winter market with most activities taking place down in Loring Park, hot chocolate, different markets you could shop at and whatnot. Same kind of feel, but it just wasn't a parade this time. And another holiday tradition in Minneapolis that was going on at the time that just ended a few years ago was Dayton's 8th Floor Holiday Show. So originally called the Christmas Show from 1963 through 2016, the 8th floor of the old Dayton's building was the most magical place in the Twin Cities. When they started out, the Daytons wanted to help out their community here with their department store and all the money they were making there. So they were a pillar of their community. They offered a wide variety of merchandise in all their stores. They supported many charities through their Dayton's Foundation, and they offered many forms of entertainment from flower exhibitions to fashion shows, and of course the holiday show. And the holiday show started out by having a different theme every year, such as the Grinch, Cinderella, the Nutcracker, and even Harry Potter. And then starting back in 2008 until the last year in 2016, the theme was the same, which was called A Day in the Life of an Elf, with the opportunity at the end, once you walk through the exhibition, to meet Santa Claus and even take a photo with him. Children and adults alike would be filled with wonder and amazement as they walked through the animatronic show and lived the many stories that have passed through the 8th floor of the auditorium.
Those are really great stories, and they bring back great memories of the holidays in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
I visited the Dayton show many, many times growing up, and I was also a jingle elf in the Holiday Dazzle one year.
Oh,
So,
awesome. Yeah,
uh,
myself, I was actually a seal with one of my friends. I dressed up in a seal costume with the circus train.
that's great. So, I was wondering, do you have any other older holiday traditions for that took place in Minneapolis?
Oh, absolutely. So back over 100 years ago now, in December of 1913, the newly elected mayor of Minneapolis, Wallace Nye, proposed that a giant evergreen tree be placed in Gateway Park and be illuminated with lights with other festivities taking place, such as caroling, live music, and outdoor motion pictures. Soon after, a 50-foot tree from Frazee, Minnesota was placed in the middle of Gateway Park, and 3,000 colorful lights were wrapped around it. The 1925 edition of the Christmas tree lighting ceremony was quite an exciting one, too. Standing in the White House, President Calvin Coolidge was given the signal and flipped a switch to turn on the tree's lights from across the country to kick off the festivities there. That part of downtown saw quite a large change in the 1960s and 70s, so there wasn't any more Christmas tree celebrations in the Gateway Park area, but that was one of the city's first citywide holiday traditions there in Minneapolis.
That's a really fun story, and it sounds like a lot of the activities and events that took place in Gateway Park are ones that we've seen in recent years in Loring Park for
Yeah,
Holidazzle. Very
absolutely. Yeah.
cool. Well, it's great to see that the holiday spirit has continued on, and hopefully, not this year, but next year, we'll be able to be back in Loring Park for the Holidazzle.
Oh, for sure. I'm looking forward to it too. I always have a great time at those events.
It was great to have you again this month, Michael. Happy holidays.
Oh, thanks. You too. Happy holidays.
Thank you for joining us for today's show. I hope to see you again next month when we have guests Billy Sushi, representatives from the Bridgewater Lofts Arts Program, Jim Berg of the Twin Cities Magic and Costume Shop, and more. If you have suggestions for future shows, please send those to our producer, Becky Fillinger, at Becky_Fillinger at hotmail.com. See you next month.